Good afternoon. My name is Jinsky Desruisseaux. I am an engineering student. I can relate to Steve Berger, because he also was a pre-engineering student back when he was in.
Speak up.
Okay. I can also relate to Steve because in his days he was also an engineering student. I was originally born in Haiti. I moved here when I was 2 years old, and I've been living here ever since. You want to introduce yourself, Steve?
Yep. Steve Berger, and this is my student. We fused so much together that we wear the same kind of outfit, too.
Yeah, it was planned. Well, before World War II, Mr. Steve Berger lived a normal life in a small town of Desruisseaux, Hungary. He lived with his father, his mother, and younger sister in a small apartment containing one bedroom and a kitchen. His father was a World War I veteran who fought with the Germans. The Jewish descent community weren't allowed to work a wide variety of jobs, such as city jobs. His father worked many different jobs to support his family, and his mother stayed home to care for him, his younger sister, and all the house duties. In Desruisseaux, Hungary was a very anti-Semitic town. I know there's always one or two exceptions to the rule, but many German kids grew up not liking the Jews. German kids were taught in school and by their parents that Jews were as low to the human race as rats are to the animal kingdom. As a youngster, Steve had many friends, all of which were Jewish. Three of them who he considered his brothers, two of which who are still alive, living in New York today. In the mornings on his way to school, he and his friends would have to walk past a Catholic school. And when he walked past the Catholic school, the children at the Catholic school would ambush him and his friends. They would harass them, and they would also beat on him. But despite this, he and his friends had many ways to enjoy the afternoon in their beautiful town. They had many different entertainment resources in walking distance where they lived. On nice days, Steve met up with his friends at the park. They would also go to the theaters. On days that weren't so nice, they would play ping pong, and he enjoyed reading books, which he saved money to buy. He loved to read, so he built himself a library in his home to collect his books. Since he was 8 years old, Steve has been hearing about Hitler on the radio. I think he finally realized how powerful Hitler was when his father was taken from his family just before World War II started. Right before his father was taken from the family, he took Steve aside and told him that he was the man of the family now, and he had to take care of his mother and sister. And from that day forth, that's exactly what he did. Just after his father was taken, he and the rest of his family were taken to a ghetto. Just as other families, they had no idea which was more important to pack, food or clothing. After just a couple of days in the ghetto, all of their food supplies were starting to deplete, without any new supplies coming in. Steve and two of his friends decided to jump the ghetto's gate and to go into town to buy food for the ghetto. For a while, they did this quite successfully, except for one occasion. On this occasion, the boys ran into one of Steve's former neighbors. While they were shopping, she recognized him instantly. Looking at the three Jewish boys buying food, she immediately called the police because she knew that it was against the law. The three boys were taken to the police station, separated, interrogated, and beaten. After the beating they received, they never tried to sneak out the ghetto again. Fortunately for Steve and his family, they were only in the ghetto for about 4 to 5 weeks. After the couple of weeks of living in the ghetto, on a hot summer day in June, they and many of the families were packed into cattle cars, not knowing where they were going. To make matters worse, they were packed so tightly that there was no room to move or even pivot your shoulders left or right. Steve had lost his only pair of glasses on the cattle car. For about 3 to 4 days on the cattle car, with no food or water, and absolutely no room to move, nowhere to use the bathroom but where they stood, was harsh condition to stay in for that amount of time. After the second day, Steve started hallucinating and started to lose track of time. Things were so bad, the elderly and sick were moaning from the heat and the smell. The babies were crying from hunger and need of change, while mothers could do nothing but listen to their cries. Needless to say, in these conditions, a handful of people died, and several people wanted to commit suicide before arriving to their destination. Once they arrived, SS soldiers unloaded the cars and of all passengers, dead or alive. The soldiers then asked the group of people, "Who here is a mechanic?" Steve, being a pre-engineering student, thought, "Hey, what did I have to lose?" He raised his hand. The SS soldier looked at him in disbelief and said, "Get onto the truck." Steve, thinking of his family, told the soldier that he couldn't go and leave his mother and sister behind. Laughing, the soldier told him once again to get on the truck, but Steve just stood there dumbfounded, not saying one word. The soldier then crossed his right arm over his torso and placed it on a pistol hanging from a leather holster on his left hip and said, "Get on the truck." Steve just stood there. To his luck, another soldier stepped off the truck and whispered something into the soldier's ear. The soldier turned to Steve and asked, Where's your mother and sister?" Steve pointed them out, and the soldier said, "Bring them along and get on the truck." After selecting a couple more people to board the truck, they were then driven to Vienna, Austria. When they arrived to Vienna, the people on the truck were sent to a factory to work as slave laborers. While working in the factory, Steve noticed something. He noticed that a person was kept as a laborer until they had no energy or until they got sick. Once either of these things happened, that person was killed off and replaced. He started thinking about this, and he found that to avoid losing energy and getting sick, he needed food. From that day forth, his number one priority for survival was food.
Jinsky, let me ask you a question. At this point, a very good interview that you're reporting about. What's your priority when you woke up this morning? What was your priority?
My priority for today was to get here on time.
And you did that beautifully. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you can remember getting up in the morning and saying, my priority is food?
Never.
Okay.
My parents have always supplied me with everything that I've always needed: food, clothing, and shelter. And I feel fortunate enough to not to have been going through any of these things.
Okay, so that gives you some idea of what it must have been like. And how old were you then, Steve?
16.
16, opening your eyes and saying, food. And that's the driving thing. Well, let me ask you the same question that I asked everybody else here so far today. If you're here and you spent a good deal of time as an intern and then with Steve interviewing him and putting his story together, what are you going to remember about Steve?
Well, in Steve's case, I found that it was very ironic because in his situation, he wasn't sent to a concentration camp. He was sent to a factory to work as a slave laborer because he had special skills that most other Jews didn't have. So that was one of the things that kind of sparked my interest and stayed in my mind a lot.
Steve, is there anything you would like?
He said it all, and very well. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, thank you both.